back for episode number 18. And this time we've got a lot more news, but our main topic is going to be career transitions.
Or how to navigate career transitions.
Alex is very well versed in this one. He's, I'll tell you guys later, but it's a running joke between us. It's also a timer between how much each other transitions careers.
That's true. Unfortunately, I have a lot to tell because I cannot sit in one job more than 1 or 2 years. And this is not because I want to, because it's the conditions. But we'll talk about it later.
But before that, if you've never watched us before, we go into the news, we do a small subtopic, and then we get to the main topic. So you can check the timeline at the bottom and go to the main topic, or you can join us for some jolly old news.
So do you want to start with your news?
It's okay, weird stuff from the internet. This one goes, do you know about Path of Exile?
Yes, I know. It's a free game on Steam. I played it a few times.
It's like a Diablo 4 kind of thing. They're quite competitive with each other, those two games, and the Path of Exile community will kill me if I compare it to Diablo. But still, PoE 2 has, you know who one of the highest rated players on PoE 2 is?
I have no idea what that is even.
Path of Exile.
Oh, okay, Path of Exile. Okay, that was abbreviation. Yeah, no? Who is it?
One of the highest rated players on Path of Exile is Elon Musk.
Cannot believe that.
There you go. That's a sane person's reaction. Anyway, people caught him basically all but red-handed. You know, they've pretty much shown all the evidence. These Redditors broke down how he's a noob, but he's bought an account from like a Chinese place, from like a Chinese gaming farm or something. So he wanted to really impress people and be like, "Oh, I'm a nerd like you guys. Come on, I'm so cool. Look at me. I'm a leader of this new game that just came out." And so Redditors have compiled all this evidence. Like, he doesn't know how to do maps efficiently. If he's like top ranked player, he should be able to do it really quickly. And at other times, they were like, "Oh, why is he having a meeting with these people and it says he's online playing right now?" Yeah, so the lengths billionaires will go to be like, "I'm just like you."
Have you seen? It reminded me right away of a picture where Trump was serving people in a drive-thru at McDonald's.
Yep.
Like, I'm just a normal human. I am just like you guys.
No, but I believe Donald Trump likes McDonald's.
Yes, I totally understand that. But like buying a botted account just to prove to everyone that you're a nerd.
Far be it from me, but I think Donald Trump is more authentic than Elon Musk. I'm so sorry to have to say that to people. And especially Elon Musk fans will be like, "Oh no, he likes the same things I do." But I can believe he genuinely likes McDonald's, you know, and he's always having it.
But gaming Path of Exile, I don't believe that Elon Musk would do that. It makes no sense. Yeah. But I think it's kind of sad that he wants to relate, but like totally it's like, "Look, guys, I'm also a nerd. I can be part of you guys," but then reality we know that he's absolutely not.
Yeah, no, I believe that he's a nerd, but he wants to be king nerd. That's the real problem, you know? He wants to be like, "I'm the best at everything," but you know.
Best nerd.
Yeah, just competitively weird bullshit. But in his case, he got like the highest ranked items, and he was level 90 something, and then he still died. PoE 2, because you know he went on live streaming on X.
He did that,
and that's where people caught this. You know, they were like, "Oh, he's playing really inefficiently. Like, it's fine if he's a regular player, but this is not how a top ranked player acts."
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah. In other news with tech people, from Zuckerberg. I linked you this earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he's loosening restrictions on a whole bunch of what used to be the team that helps control hate speech and the team that usually fact checks, which is done with external sources. Like, I think it was Snopes that helped with the fact checking stuff. However, I don't think this is any sort of story where it's like, "Oh, this guy is just doing this because he loves free speech." He's just doing this at costs.
I'm totally supporting you on that. I have a very related piece of news that Google searches for deleting Facebook, Instagram are on the rise after Meta ends the fact-checking parts, right?
Yeah.
So there was like a move to, of course, there's a bunch of conspiracy theories right away. But basically, for everyone who doesn't know, Meta had a kind of misinformation act where they basically were cleaning up all the, well, fake news on Meta. And the same way they basically try to keep the platform less politically involved in things.
Yeah.
So what happens now, they basically going to switch like to a new functionality. Instead, they're rolling out community notes, a crowdsourced system where the users can add context to posts.
Yeah, this is just like what Twitter has had for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is absolutely, against the initial commitment of fact checking. And unsurprisingly, this decision has led to surge in Google searches for how to delete Facebook, Instagram accounts. And it seems that when giving the choice between navigating digital Wild West, this is as well a comment I'm reading for one of the users, of unchecked information or reclaiming the sanity, many are opting for the latter. After all, who would want to trade endless doom scrolling for simple pleasures of real life, like touching grass and having face-to-face conversations? So if you are looking for a sign finally to cut cord on your social media overlords, consider this to be your flashing exit sign. So I totally agree. I mean, I'm for so many years now, I think I'm opening the Facebook app, 3 scrolls. I'm like, this is absolutely useless.
It's either all AI nonsense or just one of your relatives losing their mind.
And now it went AI. This is absolutely cringe to me. I feel that maybe what he's trying to do with this, well, cutting costs, yes. 2, he's preparing for the new president. Maybe by the time this podcast is released, Trump is already in office. And what is going to happen then? He's not going to have any fact check on fake news and just community who is reinforcing whatever they see. So all these, silos, information silos, or community silos, where they will be reinforcing the fake news that will not be tagged, but will be community driven justification, and it's going to be terrible. I feel that Facebook is going to become just a playground for politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just that it'll become a playground for politics. Even aside from that, you can have political discussion online without it devolving into just disinformation. And somebody else wrote, this was writer Michael Cord, I think it was his name. He's like, I don't need Facebook to be a bastion of free speech for the same reason I don't need my local Arby's to be a bastion of free speech. Provide me a service that works.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't go there to have like long-winded discussions. I want to avoid that.
It's true. Well, maybe then they should just do it for brain rot. However, it's still pretty cool. I like when people are leaving Facebook. I remember in Italy, when COVID hit, everyone just uninstalled Facebook.
Oh, that's perfect. That's what the world should have done. Instead, people back home were just like sharing that one goddamn documentary, the really bad one about like, oh, it's all planned. This will lead to the new world order. And I'm like, the world order is collapsing even worse, guys.
Biggest conspiracy ever. Talking about Meta, by the way, Meta has decided to pull the plug on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
Oh, yeah. That's also just the same thing that Twitter did when they were collapsing. They just decided, oh, this is a good way to cut costs, and now I can look like a real tough guy when I go on Joe Rogan and brag about how anti-woke I am or some stuff.
Yeah, but it's crazy what they wanted to do. So they said, hey, they explained that the DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, has become too controversial. So instead of working through the discomfort, they are scraping the whole concept. But Meta assures that they're still committed to fair and consistent practices, which totally doesn't sound like the Google neutral corporate buzzwords for their next PR play. Yeah. Who needs dedicated diversity, equity, and inclusion programs when you can just hope for the equality to happen spontaneously by itself? So basically, this bold move aligns with Meta, with one of the corporate giants like Amazon, Walmart, and McDonald's, who have also hit the eject button on DEI programs. So they provide it when Um, well, basically, times get tough. Critics say that they just want to take a step backward and saying, "Hey, we're all for fairness here, fair for all approach." So, but it seems that the meta basically shifted to if you can't make everyone happy, don't bother trying.
Yeah.
And they're just not gonna do educate people. They're not gonna have a stance on it. And if someone say, "But you had that program, now you don't," they say, "Oh, it's all fair for all for everyone." I kind of understand again why they were doing it because I feel a lot of people they abuse this system, and they can something to refer to. But if they will say equal for everyone, I kind of agree with that. So it might be a little bit of a controversial standpoint, but I'm okay with companies not putting a lot of emphasis specifically on this type of programs because I think people abuse them. People make, like it's another PR stunt, and it's just like it's a greenwashing.
No, but for me, I have the same criticism, but it's from the opposite direction, in the sense that okay, the entire concept of DEI. What do you think it means? Do you think a person just gets hired?
No, but then we don't have enough Asian or black people on our team or women working. You know what we're gonna do? Hire them.
That's actually not how it works. Most things I know that right wingers love complaining about these sort of admittance programs, but usually they just say you need to have a certain amount of CVs you look at. That's all it is.
I mean, I think they look at all of them, but now you have AI that goes through all of them and just decides automatically.
Yeah. So for me, the thing is these programs weren't particularly effective to begin with. And part of the reason is that company culture gets established and they only hire one type of person. And if you do that, you're going to have a very homogenous culture. And that's what usually leads to a lack of diversity in a company. You know, this is just a systemic sort of issue that happens. So these programs, all they do is say, hey, look at these CVs as well. Do not automatically discount them. Also, disregard the name if it sounds foreign, for example. Rather, do a blind testing sort of system.
In a situation where right now the AI is coming in, I feel that this program might be even more important.
Yeah, it would be standardly, but in my opinion, forcing big companies to do this sort of thing, it lets them off the hook for bad hiring practices anyway. Because then they're like, "Oh, we looked at the CVs.
Well, it's the CVs, everything's great.
Minimum, we did the bare minimum, guys. We don't actually have to bring anyone else." And speaking about hiring practices, there was this giant row over H-1B visas. You saw that online?
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk was very pro H-1B visas. Trump supporters were like, no. And the funny thing is, the H-1B visa, he's wrong for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean?
No, tell me.
There's being wrong for the right reasons, but ultimately he wants cheaper labor in the country. And that's why the H-1B visa allows you to have somebody who's shackled to your company in a certain way. And you can just go, if you decide to quit this job, what are you going to do then? Leave the country as well, the life you've established here. And so it allows for more obedient workers. And the other side of the equation is just, no, we don't want foreign workers coming here.
That's true, but no one's going to work for such a small salary. So I understand where the...
But no, the H-1B visa is different. The H-1B visa is usually highly skilled workers with degrees or exceptional skills. That's why so many Asian people get hired for coding jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That's that visa.
Oh, okay. Then I was not aware specifically. I thought it's for any type of employee, right, that is coming to the country. So imagined Elon Musk on his factories or something like that.
Yeah, he's talking more about the coding experts, and I think at this point, the only people left in Twitter who are actually really skilled are the ones who can't leave anywhere else.
Are they just going to start hiring people from abroad? I remember that they also opened up for a different type of employment in US, that now they can technically hire people from abroad to work in US, and there's a specific taxation law regulation that was released. So actually, that would made me happy because I was reading about it. I'm like, oh, so that means that anyone from around the world or Europe, for example, can start working for US. And they will be kind of employed in US, get paid in the US way, like US salaries or lower, for example, but they will be living somewhere else abroad. So that's something when I saw the article that was run through, I'm like, oh, that's actually not that bad for the visa program. But I'm not sure if it's the same one though.
Huh.
Maybe it's like to fight the current visa, right? Maybe there's like an opposite, some sort of legislation that was released.
Either way, I think they're going to land on we need the H-1B visa because for two reasons, right? One, they need the foreign workforce in general. These companies cannot keep their labor costs down as well. And the other reason is it depresses overall labor wages in the US. The H-1B visa allows like an overall more competitive market in favor of the companies rather than in favor of the labor.
That's fair. That's a good point. So I did not think about it.
The funniest thing is me being someone who's foreign born and living in Europe has to be like, yeah, those visas are kind of those American version of those visas is really killing them. In our case, at least, over here there's such like strong restrictions on how you can enter, what type of job you need. If you're this age, you need to have above this salary before you get the visa. Like at least in my case, you need to find very specific jobs, and not every company can just offer you this. They need to be registered. They need to be this type of business. So over here, they've really regulated it, but at the same time, I'm happy because it doesn't have that effect where it depresses the wages so much. So Netherlands it doesn't have a perfect policy, but at least there are some labor protections here, unlike the U.S.
Yeah, but the Netherlands also has a history of like kind of colonizing everyone everywhere and then inviting them here to work for cheap.
Well, so does the U.S., so does Spain, so does the U.K., and so does France.
Yeah, but the Netherlands is part of Europe where they cannot do shit that USA can do.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit better.
All right. You got anything else?
I have one funny one, which is about a new subreddit I found.
What's this done?
I have subscribed to this guy. His YouTube channel is called Some Ordinary Gamers. He's like an Indian dude who lives in Canada, and he basically had this series where he basically explores the darknet or explores some hacks. So he's a cybersecurity employee, but he also likes gaming. He would like sleep in his VR sets in Minecraft worlds high or something. Then he would play video games and stuff. And he describes these kind of weird parts of the internet. And one he was speaking about, that, which I subscribed and scrolled a lot the last couple of days. It's called r/weird websites. So this is a subreddit where a community of users, they use and discuss unusual, quirky, or bizarre websites they're encountering on the internet. So basically, if you're like discovered some website, members post links to websites that are unconventional, serve particular functions, or allowing others to explore oddities on the internet. They discuss it. Of course, it's all part of the entertainment. So people that go there, they like to post their weird like art projects, for example, or they're imitating the dark net. So have you heard of red rooms?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So imitating like red rooms, but on the clear nets, absurd generators and kind of surreal experiences that they publish. And he was discussing this website that was launched in 2008, I think. And it was empty. And people would just basically go on the Wayback Machine and check how the website looked back then. And it was just a folder. And now what happened, someone went again to this website that was called Laughing Horse or something like that. And basically there were videos that were filming someone's kid sleeping in a room, in a very weird room, and performing sleep tests. And that stayed from 2023 to 2024, and someone again deleted it. So when you go to the Wayback Machine, you look at the last 15 years or like 17 years of changes, and there's like the first spike in 2008 and then the second in 2023, and that's it. And I was like, why the hell this website that was online for 17 years had an initial publish, for 17 years was forgotten, and then someone uploaded a video of a girl sleeping, like MP3 files, and then MP4, sorry, and then you go, it's like a video that is called 0.36, 37, 38, and then 55, 56. So like, what happened in between? So it was a whole conspiracy. And I went through some of these websites, and they're super cool. People just like doing these creative art projects and development projects. So it's very funny. So it's called r/weird websites.
Yeah, this is funny to me because I was online and they were having this gigantic discussion just generally on Blue Sky that younger people, Gen Z folks, they're just discovering all these old websites and they're just they like marvel at like, oh, look at this one has like this. There's so much functionality. Yeah, there's a sort of fascination with the old net, and they're sort of just like archaeologists just digging around and discovering
old tech.
Yeah. And even it goes beyond websites as well. I was reading a bunch of sources here, like this one from The Hustle, which says there are all these Gen Z kids who just love outdated tech. So they'll buy like Walkmans and tape decks and all that stuff.
Dinosaur technologies.
Yeah, but there is a charm to them.
I agree. Like people who collect very old
Vinyls.
Nintendos, vinyls or old Nintendos, all the old PCs, right? The ones that are super retro.
Yeah.
And it's called like nostalgic. I've seen there was a guy who was playing Counter-Strike 1.5 on a very old like Windows machine, Windows 98. And when I saw it, I'm like, I remember this. I still remember like playing Counter-Strike on this very bloated screen that was like super huge and heavy. And it's for us, it's nostalgic. But have I told you a story? There was one girl, I think it was on TikTok, that she was a babysitter. And she was describing that while she was babysitting at this parent's house, or these kids, and the parents, they basically started calling, and she couldn't find her phone. And she's like, you know what would be cool if every house would have like a phone on a string on a line that would be in one place in the house,
just for the home. Yeah.
That way, it's just for the home. Everyone knows what it is, and everyone can find it. So you will avoid basically losing your phone somewhere in the big house. And so in the comments, like the girl invented rotary phone, like a stationary home landline. So it's very funny. So this reminds me of that as well.
Yeah, it's also funny to me because this always reminds me of how like tech people, whenever they're coming up with solutions for road congestion, they're like, there should be this like one moving car that picks up people and just travels through the city, and then you can pay a toll together, and then it'll be cheaper over. You're talking about public transport. You're talking about public transport.
Sounds like US. It's like they never heard of trains or trams or anything like that. Crazy people.
Either way, you done with the news? Because I've got the subtopic, which is CES.
Go ahead.
We're doing something a little bit different this time around. There were a lot of stuff done at CES. We're not at a pharmacy. So at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, they unveiled all sorts of new technologies, and they usually do a pretty big job of capturing the tone of the tech industry at the time. But I thought it'd be more, because these episodes by the time they come out, CES will be long gone. You'll have read about everything. We're just gonna do a quick rundown, and I'm just gonna get Alex's enthusiasm level for the various technologies here.
All right, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. I'm reading from Mashable's report, where a lot of the reporting was done by one of my favorite podcasters, Matt Bender. So, and Ed Zitron was also there. They did fantastic coverage. So got a whole source of these. I've written them down just to ask Alex the weird and the cool stuff.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Acer has a new laptop made from oyster shells. Acer did this by cleaning, crushing, and mixing said shells, which are abundant in China, with a blend of more than 70% post-consumer recycled plastic. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward laptop.
I think it's fine. I feel that maybe they should have done this like 20 years ago or 10 years ago. I like that they're doing the refurbishing part, and also the other part right away, kind of emotional response. This is another greenwashing thing. They're like, oh, this is a new thing we're doing, and if it's going to be the only PR stunt they're going to have for this stuff, I don't like it.
I feel like it's better than greenwashing because it's an actual product.
It is a product. However, they could have done this 10 years ago.
For me, it's definitely greenwashing when you're saying it.
Okay, fair.
Rather than making a thing, So for me, if you've got a practical example of something, I think it's just cool in the sense that, like, hey, we invented something. I don't care about the green aspect of it, even because it's not going to solve the world's problems if you grind up shells. But I just think that's a cool concept.
That's a cool concept. That's okay. Absolutely. As long as my PC works, I don't care how it looks.
But I agree with you that Acer is a big company, and this feels more like a science fair project.
Yeah, indeed. They're like, what? We should do something that will prove that we are sustainable.
Yep. The next is TVs with AIs are really popular right now at CES, and there's a whole bunch of companies like Samsung and LG. They were talking about AI features that help to optimize audio/video settings, recommend content, and personalize your TV experience.
No,
Not a fan?
not a fan.
Yeah, smart TVs are already pretty smart. It's smart enough, I don't need them listening to me and sending back data like every other device in my house.
Have you seen? I think Samsung patented many years ago a TV with a camera that basically you have to like stand up and clap 3 times to confirm you're watching an ad or something like that before it goes away.
I heard about this. I thought it was I thought this must have been fake news or something.
No, so I don't know. Maybe it is, but I remember there was a patent. Maybe it was LG, maybe it was Samsung. That TV will have a camera, and then you have to, when it shows an ad, you have to confirm that you're watching an ad by verbally saying that you're watching an ad, or like everyone say 1, 2, 3, and you have to say 1, 2, 3, or stand up or clap or whatever to confirm that you're watching an ad in order to continue watching your movie. So I think this is where we're moving, and I'm pretty sure that I'm 90% sure that in 10 years, that's exactly what's going to be happening with your TV. It's going to tell you exactly what you need to confirm that you're watching an ad, or maybe even transfer money to skip an ad or something. Have you seen YouTube has like 50 ads already, or like almost like 7 ads, and then you can skip an ad to the next ad, and then you're like 4 minutes into like a video is like 30 seconds, and there's an ad that is like 1 minute. Insane.
Yeah. I'm also most interested in like how much more extreme the ads get if I'm watching on my TV rather than watching it on my laptop, where the stuff is easily skippable, and it's harder to skip stuff on your TV.
That's true.
Pile on the ads.
It's insane. Like I feel so. This is a note to me. I feel that one thing should do one thing very well, and that's it.
All right. On a similar vein, LG released Stand By Me 2. And this is a portable battery-powered TV. It's basically just a tiny console. Think of it like just a gigantic phone, but you can with the full capabilities. And an update from the previous model with longer battery life, higher resolution, 1440p. And availability and pricing hasn't been announced yet, but it's basically so you can go around and watch stuff on a trip or on a camp while camping.
I'm okay with that. I can see a use case. I've seen a very similar thing as for like a kitchen, if you're like a home cook or something, but they show like a very big kitchen, and the lady was cooking, and this robot would follow her and kind of have a recipe, and it would tell her what to do in terms of a recipe. And she would say, I did point number 2, and then it would cross it out and then go to the next point. Or she would watch like a tutorial of how to cook or something in the kitchen. So I've seen this application, and I think it's pretty cool in general. Or there was a robot that would drive around the factory, and it would be like, I think someone says like, find me John. And then in the giant warehouse, this robot would drive around, find John, and then you can have like a Zoom meeting with John, because I don't know why you cannot call, but I find it's interesting. I don't know how useful it is yet, because the alternative would be use a tablet in the kitchen somewhere to get your recipe, or use I don't know, voice assistant to do that, and then on a factory you just call someone.
Yeah, that's how I kind of felt about it. I feel like this is just a tablet but lower functionality.
Tablet with legs. Yeah, no, it's an okay. It's like a 5 out of 10. I don't, if they have to really find a use case for me for that.
Here's something with the use case that I'm not going to tell you, because I want your reaction both before and after then.
Okay.
This is an electric spoon that makes things taste salty without actually having the salt in there.
I have no idea.
Stimulates your the receptors in your tongue.
No, I don't want that.
So now I'll tell you the actual reason why. This is for people who have like high sodium in their blood. So they can make the food taste tastier without actually having to increase the sodium in their body.
No, just no. Maybe you can call me anything you want. I think that doesn't make any sense. I've seen for the people who have tremors, right, who cannot eat, and I've seen a spoon that balances out
It's
the
like a
food.
steady cam but a spoon.
Yes, steady spoon. So that one I really think is a cool one. This sounds like bullshit.
Oh well, I mean, I think like anything that makes people's lives easier for if they have sodium deficiency, without actually, I think this one's innocent. You know,
It's innocent with no discrimination. Yes, this is fun. Maybe there's a use case, but I feel that probably it's not going to be as popular. But it's cool.
yeah. So a French startup, Lily for Life, developed a monitor that is said to help people with dyslexia.
Yes, 100%.
That's
Yes.
pretty cool, right?
Yes, I agree.
The Lily screen emits nearly imperceptible light flashes that correct this overlap by creating a shift in visual perception. This innovation makes reading smoother, faster, less tiring, enhancing text comprehension and making the experience more enjoyable for the reader.
I think that's pretty cool.
That's all according to the company. We haven't tried this, obviously, but the concept in itself is, hey, somebody invented something. It's not just a software package.
This is very nice. I like this because it reminds me as well of the orange light, right, for the evening. So all your desktop, your TV, maybe your phone becomes basically more orange from the blue light protection. So I feel this is on par with that. So I think that's helpful. I like that.
Cool. Now this one is a competitor to the Steam Deck.
Ooh.
Yeah. Acer's Nitro Blaze 11. The Taiwanese tech company's latest handheld PC has a few features to give it an edge over its fellow portable gaming devices. I'm reading from Mashable. And so this thing is kind of like a Steam Deck, but Acer is saying it's going to be the new big thing.
I'm excited. Portable gaming. I like that.
Yeah, I do. I like the Switch. I like the Steam Deck. They're good ideas. I never carry them around with me because there's too much stuff I need to carry around. But if I see someone else playing on it, I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous.
I have two examples where I used it. Last year, I think I went to Austria by bus on a ski trip, and I finished all the games because then you're sitting for 10 hours, 12 hours in a bus. And there was a plug. So I just plugged it in, put my headphones in, and I gamed, and the time flew by. You're not bored. You cannot read a book for forever, but the gaming was great. And then when I went to China, I had to take a train ride that was as well 8 hours. Yeah. What do you do for 8 hours? I mean, yeah, you can look at the landscapes for a little bit, but then you get bored. And then I started gaming. And Steam Deck was really a savior. Like these two examples, that is great. But then if you're going on a trip for like 5 days or like 3 weeks, and you have these like 2 touch points, they make it better, but it's just too much to bring because they're very bulky. That's the only concern. But if they're going to become lighter or maybe foldable or something like that, absolutely fine. I support that. I like new tech.
All right. There was this one. There was a cat litter box, a smart cat litter box. So it basically does a few things. This one's funny to me because it feels like somebody came up with the idea and then somebody came up with some like, but how would that work kind of ideas, and then they had to like overcomplicate the machine. So it's a smart cat litter box. It tells when your cat can poop. It has the cleaning thingies that some the more expensive top of the line cat litter boxes have, which break down very often, but still that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
This one has cat facial recognition.
Why?
So it can the purpose of this thing is like when your vet asks, "Oh, can you monitor your cat's like poop? Is it like this?" And who's gonna do that, right? So this litter box can sort of solve that with you. And I feel like somebody was like, "Yeah, what if they have multiple cats? How will you know?"
AI face recognition.
Yes. Added AI facial recognition to a cat litter box.
Over engineering, I feel.
Yeah. So you see what I mean? It feels like a boardroom brainstorming session gone mad.
So can we engineer this? Yes, do it. I think it's pretty cool for the because I have a cat.
It's probably going to be like upwards of $5,000 though. So.
Well, there's another solution for the feeders. We have friends who have 2 cats, 3 cats. I don't know. So what happens? They have feeders, 2 automatic feeders. in two parts of the house, and the feeder gives a sound. Cats know that, and they go to each one of their feeders. But if they, for example, one cat was sneaky, and he would go to a feeder of the other cats, and it wouldn't activate. Why? Because they have a collar, and the collar would activate only when it sees that like it's next to the feeder, to the proximity of the specific feeder. So it only activate when the proper cat is next to the feeder based on the color signal. And the same way for the smart door to go outside in the backyard, because one cat would run away and the other one would never run away. So they have the same response when the cat comes to the cat door, then it opens up only for one cat. So there is a solution. You need face recognition. You can use just like a collar or a chip.
Yeah, like you said, over engineering. This is like the collar thing already exists, and I was like, oh, that feels like that would be much better.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's over engineering.
Cats are gonna poop at the same time. They're very territorial like that.
Well, that's also true. Everyone has their own scent. Another way of doing it, because we don't have a smart door to go outside, but what he does, like there's a magnet. So when the cat walks past, the magnet activates the trigger. So there's basically like a magnet system. It's not even the microchip. It's not electronic. It's nothing. Yeah. It's just a magnet, and it works.
So I had a lot of stuff to ask you, but we're going to speed that along because we're going to get off topic, and we need to jump into the main topic soon. So I'll just ask you for this last one, which is Lenovo has sort of has developed like a laptop that can make itself grow.
Define grow?
Yeah, I'll show you. A new rollable laptop from Lenovo was unveiled at CES, one that can make this display grow larger. Lengthily named ThinkBook Plus Gen 6 rollable AI laptop is a pretty wild personal device that expands on Lenovo's previous showcase models. So just kind of you can...
I like that.
Yeah. So I love that Lenovo became we're the crazy laptop physical design guys.
Right, they like bend it backwards, unroll it,
disconnect it. So I like that they positioned themselves that way. You need a company that's just coming up with strange hardware designs.
So you have to push the tech forward. I like this.
And it's also in a way that this is kind of strange and offbeat, but there's always a purpose for this. When Lenovo first introduced the laptops that could bend backwards, I was like, one that's half a tablet and half a computer. That's like such a simple idea.
No, I agree. Like for me, this is very nice. I like that. I've seen right now, because when I travel with a laptop, I have a second screen that I take with me. But when I was in co-working in Lithuania, I saw the girl, what she did. She kind of connected like a clamp to her main screen on her laptop. And then she had two extra tinier screens next to each other. So it was pretty much 3 screens and an attachment to her laptop, like back of her laptop. It was super cool. When I saw it, I'm like, okay, this is probably my next purchase. Because it looked very cool. You get 2 extra screens. You can use it for something like copy pasting, maybe code. So I totally am for all that type of tech.
Yeah. So there was a lot more stuff, but we're getting low on time.
Let's switch to the main topic. I have a definition for the navigating career transitions.
Perfect.
Career transitions, they refer to the process of shifting from one career path, role, or industry to another. So this can involve changing job responsibilities, professional goals, work environment, or sector. So these transitions may be voluntary, of course, such as pursuing a new passion or advancing in a higher role in a specific company, or involuntarily, for example, someone's getting promoted. That is also kind of a career transition, or adapting to layoffs, for example. So I never kind of thought about it in such a depth before we started preparing for this podcast. But there are like a few reasons. What does a switch actually mean in terms of career transition? Moving from one industry to another makes sense. Shifting roles within the same field makes sense. Advancing to a leadership position or moving into an entry-level role in a new field makes sense. These two, I did not think about, which is returning to the workforce after a career break. For example, you have a kid, you didn't work for 2 years, and everything kind of stepped forward. In the tech world, that's very quick anyway. So I didn't think that is a career transition. And also switching from full-time employment to freelancing or entrepreneurship is also a career transition. Because in my head, I'm like, if you're a freelancer, You do the same thing you did at work, but you do it just for yourself. However, there's much more involved that I did not think about, which is also falling under the category or a definition of career transition. So those are the few things, and I feel that me and you, we have a little bit of personal experience that we can go through, and I think it's also very important for the people who are just starting their career to understand. Like it's very applicable because it's not only about changing, or in this case, you're also changing a career from a student to an employee. I think that's also like it's not a career switch, but kind of is because you were a full-time student.
I'd
And there is
consider that
switching.
like an induction into your career.
Yeah, but it is still like a transition, right? And there are specific things that will apply being you being a professional switching to a career or you being a student like getting a career.
That's the thing, though. I wanted to make a distinction between job and career in that sense. A career is sort of almost more of an identity, whereas a job is just sort of the thing you do for money.
Interesting way of looking at it. I never thought about it. I feel like for me, a job is
I'll
like
put it this way:
Mhm.
you can have two jobs within the same career. Like
That's true.
if you were a freelancer doing this, and like you mentioned before, and you move to a company doing the same thing, it may not necessarily be a career change.
Yeah,
Because
but
the category of your work will still kind of sort of be similar.
yeah, you can be in the same industry, right? So you can still be doing the same thing.
But I also feel like career is more of a vibes thing.
I feel career is long. So everything you do in terms of any type of job is adding to your career rather than you can have 50 jobs, but all 50 jobs are still a career.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can deep dive into it.
Like I know somebody who used to do law and then just became a landlord.
Well, that's not a job.
Yeah, I mean it's not, but
Being a landlord is not a job. I know it requires work, but I don't think that that's a job.
don't get me started on that. I make an exception for this one guy, but I do not like what they do. But yes,
No. So for me, what I did basically for this part is I wrote a bunch of how to. And while going through these how to's, I also identified, which I did not think about before I started writing this, that a lot of these things I did during my transitions or career step ups or kind of, let's say, side steps in my career. I did them, but I never thought about it that it adds to my career in general. So all these different jobs. Some of them, of course, I think this is also very important for someone who is starting to get into a new career or job that they never did before, that they have to clarify their goals. So the first thing, I kind of wrote recommendations and examples as well. So reflect on your long-term career aspirations, right? So what do you want to do in your next role? What do you want to do or what do you like to do? That doesn't piss you off too much. And I think that's important to understand. Sometimes people say, this is what I want to do. Sometimes it's better to know what you don't want to do because then you leave more options open in kind of coming into a new job in an open mind.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So for example, if you're moving to teaching corporate training, you have to understand, maybe which skills overlap. So if you like talking to people, go to sales or go to, I don't know, some sort of customer support or customer relationship, something like that. So you have to also identify your skills that overlap, and that will help creating clarity. I remember one guy, I still talk to him when I was in uni and he was already working. He told me, you have to identify where do you want to work first? Underwater, on the water, on the ground, underground, in the sky, in the space. I'm like, okay. So I didn't think that far, but then I realized I don't like water. Anything water related, not me. Underwater, on the water, on the ship, nope, not gonna happen. So basically, that was like a clarity of some of the, my goal is to work, but then I have to also think about where I don't want to work first, and then it kind of flushes out the parts that I like.
I mean, in my case, it was pretty simple. I wanted something to do with either writing or music. that was it. I was like, anything adjacent to those, I'll be done with that.
Fair. Well, I always wanted to be a hobo, but and then I wanted to be a musician. Look at me. I'm not a hobo and I'm not a musician. I guess my goals were not clear enough. The other one is assess the transferable skills. So this is where if you know sometimes people like I don't know in my high school I will give you an example. There were some people who were doing gymnastics or were doing music or doing sort of sports, let's say, and people who did sports they ended up being like coaches and trainers and or like working in the industry just because they were doing sports. But everyone who did music, not a single person became a musician.
The music industry is much more of a coin toss than
Right.
a lot of others. Sports is actually like it's also just easier to assess skill in sports. I'm jealous of them for that. You know,
That's true. Assess creativity, right? That has to be mainstream.
Uh,
So basically, these transferable skills, it doesn't mean that it has to be one, but it can be experiences through your whole career. And some of those, of course, you will not identify until you maybe reached a kind of synthesis or the whole puzzle piece comes together. Because maybe you say, I know how to use one tool. And then maybe there's like 20 alternatives to the same tool to do the same thing. Yeah. So sometimes it's better not to kind of link it to one thing. So keep it very broad when it comes to your skills. It doesn't have to be a tool. It can be, you know, communication, right? Already very broad. Leadership or problem solving. In managerial positions, that can be highlighted, right? So I was a team lead in a coffee store, and then that already is transferable skill into, let's say, corporate even. I mean, maybe on a different level. However, it is also a skill that you can take with you. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to, if I never worked in corporates, that means no one's going to, you know, accept me to a job position, but there are those skills that you have to think about. Of course, you will have to do some upskill strategies. So you will have to maybe take courses, get some certificates, develop new competencies that are relevant to the industry. However, that is so individualistic for each industry that you're joining. So you cannot just say like, oh, they're not going to hire me because I don't have that. Yeah, there's so many things that are different per industry, per company that you'll never learn unless you're in there. And when you're in there, living the brand might take a lot more time as well. So for me, this upskill is very important and it reminds me of when you go to your first job, they're like, oh, forget everything you learned in university. Now it's going to be this way. You're like, okay, so 4 years wasted because now it's going to be day one, me being completely green, just starting, you know, to build up my skill set. How was it for you?
I mean, the things I learned in university, they taught us a lot of theory about stuff, but in practice, it's always different at companies, you know? The baseline is always usually similar, but practice is a whole different can of worms.
So I would assume that the similar things would be team player, open communication, strong communication skills.
It's funny. I was doing this project once with some friends where, in my case, I was doing a video content for a concert series of classical musicians. And the organization people were all basically students, but they needed my help. And I wasn't part of the organization process. I was just, you know, camera guy. Mm-hmm. But when they needed a brainstorm, I just suddenly pulled out all of the business management tools I knew, which I took for granted, honestly, you know. But I learned that these guys don't know how to like brainstorm in the way that we do on such a regular basis that it's like ingrained in us. Like this thing needs to lead to this thing and that thing, and you know, think about the problems, the pros and the cons, and you have to do a sanity check on everything. The thing that we take for granted is the practice that happens from that. Mm-hmm. So it was funny when I was doing this job, and even though it's like I wasn't yet transitioned into my career as a business person, you know, I still needed those tools in that other one in an unrelated task.
So basically, brainstorming. That's the way they basically didn't have a system
structured.
Structure.
And it wasn't even the fact that I'd introduced something new there. One of the guys was really amazed. He was like, oh, I need to learn how to do that. It was just like figuring out the notation type, you know, like writing it all down and then being like breaking stuff into small steps and processes. That all came with practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I think being a, let's say, strategic, or let's say attention to detail. Like, you don't think that as a skill, or you don't, like, some people just don't have that. They're very chaotic, which you learn when you start your career, that some people are absolutely a mess, and you're like, how did they get that job?
Especially creative people,
Especially creative
who can
people.
be completely disorganized, and and then there are other people who are just completely useless, and those are the ones I say, how did they get that job?
That's true. Well, and this leads me to the next point, which is network efficiency, or like like using your network effectively.
Yeah.
So when you get into some sort of interests zone community, that's where I know a guy who knows a guy. So the recommendation is always to reach out to professionals in your desired field, right? For information, maybe interviews or advice. So that's how they get the job, because it's someone's grandson. And then you're like, how the hell did they get this job? But in general, connecting with people. So I find that at this point and stage in my career, this is very important. And that's how we met up, right? Because we got a reference, like we were kind of referenced to each other 7 years ago or something like that. And now we're friends. So the same way, I feel that people have to be more open to referencing or to sharing their network, because that's how you build kind of a stronger network of people.
Yeah, I also just find that to be the fun way to do things, because I don't want to be surrounded by strangers either. So networking isn't necessarily this cold sort of activity that you do for self-interest. Sometimes you do it just because, hey, it's fun to work with people, and it's fun when they're like are surrounded by people like that.
Yeah, it's like people in the same industry, they also think alike, right? So you're speaking the same language. It's easier to collaborate. It's easier to make friendships as well. So yeah, we found some clients even when we went to the TNW, not this year, but last year. I met someone. She's from Belarus, and she is working. She almost became our client, but we're still talking. So she just became like a connection on a networking event. Then we clicked, and now we're on the same page, on the same, like, speaking the same language, working in marketing. Basically just completely random network event where some people clicked.
So in my case, if we're done with that part, if I only have one career transition story, because I've mostly, by my own definition, spent time in the same career but just swapped industries. Yeah. And I don't consider it to be all too different from one another, and that's probably a damning indictment of one of those industries rather than the other. And it's a funny story about setting your end goal and then finding it somewhere else by accident. So I'm gonna tell you guys my background, which is originally in media and music and all these sorts of like more broadly artistic sort of things, but you can't really turn that into a career too easily. So I also did journalism. And when I started as a journalist, I did tech journalism for a company I will not name because I have some things to say about this. They were good dudes, but they also needed to pay the bills. So the job kept like changing, and the thing that I signed up there for, which was researching a topic, investigating a thing, and then reporting back, and then writing an article all in like a tight deadline, came in handy in another job. But basically, what happened was when I was there, my big gripe was it's too commercial. I'm having to write advertorials occasionally, which is just a marketing fluff piece for a big company instead of actually doing the job of going, oh, this is what's developing in the tech sector. This is what's developing in this thing, The other thing is, when I was there, I wasn't getting too much credit for my work. Like initially, they would have the authors listed, but then later they switched to a model where none of the authors were listed. So
that's shady.
Yeah. It happens at a lot of companies when they start getting outside contributors instead, and ghostwriters and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't feel very creatively reinforced over there, and so then it became really monotonous, and then there was this relentless commercialism.
So you were like a salesy kind of copywriting.
It started off as tech journalism job, but then like my entire career trajectory started like shifting without me even knowing it. The ground started moving underneath my feet, and I suddenly became a marketing guy. So what happened was I quit that company, and then a little while later, after my master's, I started working for a marketing company instead. And the funny thing is, working as a tech journalist and having to write marketing briefs was very depressing. But working for a marketing company and now having to write tech briefs is actually quite nice.
So that connected.
Yeah, it connected. I transitioned from journalism to marketing, but the funny thing is, it's just as much journalism, but at least we're honest that it's also marketing. The dishonesty was what was making me upset. So that's why I can't name the company. I don't want to shame them. They have their bills to pay. They're good dudes. But, advertorials are a blight on the industry.
So you're basically saying that a little bit of pressure on yours, like on their side, those strict deadlines, also having a very technical approach to it, and having the marketing approach to it, like helped you in your current careers, right?
Yeah, yeah. All the skills were transferable, and the thing is, I had a business degree in the middle anyway, because you can't just do journalism;
Mhm.
you do media and something. And then, in my case, it was media and management.
Mhm. No, but that makes sense. Like this is where I feel when I had my second job, also under pressure. So much pressure, they squeezed me out like crazy. But I feel that's where a lot of things were born, right? A lot of realizations and wisdom kind of came out where you're like, well, I don't want to do this. I do not want to work under these conditions. Thank you for everything that happened, but I need my sanity back. And when you're sane and rested, you can obviously do a little bit better. And then you can understand of like, okay, where in the long term do I want to go, right? Like it's not only about skills. I mean, it is a lot about skills, but you can always develop them because the tech industry and the marketing industry changes every day. And there are different priorities. However, you can at least understand which direction you want to move, right? What makes you more happy. Uh, and that's where I did a few things as well, which is also down on my list, is gaining relevant experience. So what I explained, you sometimes have to do things just to try. And this is where in my career I was working as a growth marketeer in TNW. So the next web, which is organizing events. And that is something I like. Growth marketing, I like performance, I like data driven experiences. This is the first time when I was working for an event company, and I thought I'm gonna love it. Why? Because, well, everyone likes events. It's tech events, it's marketing, it's the next thing what is happening in the industry. And then you enter, you're like, oh yeah, these guys are not really industry driven, kind of. They're more about the talk but don't walk the walk. More of like, let's talk about all the buzzwords we know, and then we have not a single proof idea of what it actually means or does, but everyone talks about it, so it's exciting. Let's organize an event and invite people from their network or their followers to talk about it, but themselves like, oh, that's nice, no idea what they said. So for me, that was a little bit of a personal experience of like, you need the relevant experience as well. Sometimes it's like a little bit of a devil in disguise. You don't know if it's really the thing you want, but it's not bad to try. So for this point, basically getting relevant experience, it can be even irrelevant because it might be hidden because every company has a name of a position that doesn't align with anything else in the industry. Happiness manager, everything manager, something else, marketing manager, and then all you do is write stuff on the chalkboard every morning in the menu in your canteen. So whatever. So like you have to try things to know if it works. And one trick as well that I basically started doing many years ago, I think in 2019, when LinkedIn was, I saw the LinkedIn was exploding at that point. I basically tailored my resume as well on my LinkedIn profile. And the other thing I did, I automated it. So I have like 4.8 thousand connections in my network on LinkedIn, and it's all like C-level hiring managers. And I had a bot on my server that would just connect and send out invitations. So now, and now for the last 2 years, I have an AI bot running on my LinkedIn. So that is generating this content, publishing very long every day publishes it automatically. Thousands of people see it. I did nothing. So, but the idea was like, I want to move in that direction. I like to do this. If I lose my job or if I want to start a new career, I need these people in my network who are decision makers. And that time, I basically automated, building my network. And now I'm automating content creation by AI bots that think like me or extract all the news from the industry, which I like. And that also creates kind of, highly relevant network that is completely always fed by the relevant information in your skill set. No one's going to know it's AI, but some people they do that. So they say, "Hey, Alex, we're sitting next to each other during lunch, and then you publish something." And one time, it published something very not nice. So, but that is more of a lesson of you should keep an eye on AI things. But generally speaking, yes, you should use as well LinkedIn to
Fair enough.
build your network.
When I see your LinkedIn posts, I'm like, you don't talk like that.
I don't. There was also one. There's an automation to respond to comments, and what it does, if a comment, if a post, someone's post is in Italian, you click respond, and the AI writes a very awesome response in Italian, and and you can automate that. So you'll like contribute, and it just writes whatever. I don't even look what they published. I'm just like not even looking at it. Is it Arabic? Is it Italian? Is it Portuguese? And it just writes that. And someone, an HR person from my network, which was like, Alex, you're surprising. Not only you write stuff, I didn't know you speak Spanish. Like it was like Italian fluently. I'm like, right? So this is crazy. But this is how the whole thing is switching and changing. How's your LinkedIn game?
Uh, I mean, I get reached out mostly by what I feel like are fake accounts that are posting to get us to internal link to stuff. And this happened even more ever since I'd started my new job because the websites are very high performance, So, and it's one time I got like messages. This is just a sidetrack, obviously, but I got a message and I'm like, they hadn't answered it for a long time, and I'm like, oh, this profile changed its name, changed its it changed its profile picture, and it's the same message.
Wow. Yeah, but this is like botnets. It's farming, just farming for backlinks.
That's my experience on LinkedIn.
So, well, I'm also botting stuff, but I'm responsible for that. A few more things I have from personal experience, and then we can put the data behind the stories. So one thing extra that I really as well appreciate is leveraging mentorship. So personal experience, I was working in a hotel industry. I was back then an intern, a marketing intern, and I had this like very bad laptop from like 2008. I think it was so bad. However, there was a director who I highly appreciate, and he told me a few things that really got stuck with me. So there's a positive and a negative. The positive, the director was so high level, he was so smart that he told me, Alex, every time before I start my job, because I was like, I had loose ends. When I started, I'm like, there's too many things going on. I don't know what to do. What's a priority? So prioritization was very difficult to me until he said, whatever your manager wants. And he said that every day he starts his day from like 15 minutes of making a to-do list. He's like, or in the beginning of the week, I just make everything I want to accomplish this week. And that's it. It sounds super simple and ridiculous. Really helped me.
That's really useful because in my case, I have a to-do list that automates because of Asana. And I was like, oh, this makes my job so much easier.
So you create someone creates a bunch of tickets and they, let's say, pop into your calendar. So for me, that was very cool. And I also complained to him. It's like, yeah, everything I learned at my university is not really applicable here. And he said to me as well, one phrase that really resonated with me that now I use it for, 10 years now. He said, the university degree helps an employer to understand that you can shut up for 4 years and do what you're told. And I'm like, okay, so that makes sense to me. The whole, whatever I learned, not really, but what he said really, resonated with me.
No, that's definitely it. The other thing is it shows that you put your initiative into something and finished it. That's literally the purpose of it. The other thing is it teaches you how to think. It doesn't really necessarily teach you the exact tools you'll need, but it gives you enough frameworks. Like I said earlier, with the guys were really surprised that my basics of business management 101 brainstorming session, they were like, "Oh wow."
Brainstorming ideas.
I know. It was very strange because they were all like creative guys.
Yeah.
But it's a different set of tools we acquire, and I always think of it as mostly the practice. I did so much writing in university, for example. I did so much like language skills prep, and that ultimately made me very good at communication. It made me very good at presenting stuff. It made me really good at organizing people and saying, "Oh, come on, guys, this is what we need to do." Blah blah blah. You do this, you do that, you do that, and that stuff doesn't have anything to do directly with the tools we use on a day-to-day basis. But it's so much more social skills, interpersonal skills, and organizational theory.
That's why you need diversity. That's why you need diversity on projects. And also like this is the part where I wrote like leveraging mentorship. So this guy basically was my mentor. He said a few things to me because he was like a higher up director. I couldn't speak to him that much. I spoke to my manager. It was a little bit crazy, but the guy basically was very cool. I had another mentor that was very bad. At another agency where I worked at, that they squeezed me out completely, and he was just gaslighting me. He was really like pushy and gaslighting. And why is it
the finance job?
No, that one is just a crazy guy, and I was already mature enough not to pay attention. However, in the agency, he was just gaslighting. He was presenting himself in one way, but then I was so good with my list now that I got from my mentor. I was so good in delivering that he didn't have a chance to find gaps in the performance. So he had to go to other realms of my character to justify some things, and that was a very good mentorship exercise. That the mentor can be very bad as well. So he can be and very like give you nice direction. However, you always have to be mindful if the mentorship is actually like good. Is it like desired mentorship? Is it about the transition period, or is it just mentorship someone's opinions that or experiences that you cannot relate to? So you have to make sure that the mentor that you get, or it might be your friend even, right? It doesn't have to be in a career, but it can be your friend who works somewhere. They can be your mentor if the industry or career is somehow related. So I think that's important. Be open to lateral moves. So lateral moves is basically switching left or right for your interests. And in my case, I was a technical project manager. So I was building websites and making sure that everything was done from ideation, UX, design, development, front end, back end, SEO, analytics, rollout. So everything from this lateral moves, like a side step, because everything was creative on one side and technical on the other. And I realized I'm more technical. So I went on the technical side, and I decided from the technical implementations, I like three things like analytics, SEO, website development, and so on. So these are the things that I picked, but it was not a going up, being a senior technical project manager, not stepping down to be a junior front end developer, but it was stepping sideways saying, I like these things. And maybe that's where you have to transition. And that's where my transition happened as well. And also it opens up a lot of like being a project manager. If you really are curious of what the hell you're delivering, I think this is the best even profession in my experience that allows you to open up to things. So that's as well, not to be afraid to do side steps. So if you do a job or in your career, you're like, I really like that part at some point, you can always come back and do that. And you have to be, of course, flexible and patient because as we identified in the beginning, career is your whole life. So there's a lot of time to do something, and you should better spend it on something that brings you more joy. If not, don't do it, and find the right mentors for it. And practice your story, maybe even. So if during interviews people question you, again, my personal experience. So Alex, why in the last 10 years you have switched 6 jobs? I'm like, well, one, people fired a bunch of people. This is a layoff. This is COVID. This is a bad team. Was a test run. And then that way you're like, personal experience matters. You see a lot of things. If you can open up under the hood and check what is happening, you have to just make sure that you really have your story straight. Because if you cannot answer why you switched jobs every 2 years, if you say it was because of the better payment, that's the wrong incentive. But if it's like, oh, I outgrew the company, that's a great story. If you say, hey, why are you stepping up to a team management role? Like, well, I really want to make sure that I like to make people happy, for example, and make sure that they have the tools, maybe, or the skills that I don't have, and they can mentor me the same way I can facilitate there. So, like, you have to find a story of why you change and transition through your career. And some people, they say, oh, every 1 year is very bad. However, we see that the whole industry, everyone's jumping jobs every 2 years or 3 years latest. And I think that's fine because sometimes, HR can be HR.
Yeah.
So that's literally my list of how to's. What do you have? Support me with the data.
Well, I'm short on data this time around, sadly, because I was mostly looking at Harvard Business Review and Forbes and things like that. I was looking for common reasons for career changes.
Tell me.
One of the most common was, of course, as you mentioned, better pay. But the most common reason is usually fulfillment. A career change is more drastic than a job change. So, if something has to really go sideways in your world for you to want a complete career change. So, lack of fulfillment is one of those things where people say, "Oh, the job doesn't give me as much meaning." And this job instead, I get to, for example, interact with real people. That's a huge issue. Where like certain jobs, you're like a desk clerk for a long time, and you're like, well, now I'm like a nurse or something, and I'm actually dealing with people and their problems instead of being, a link in the chain.
You ever had a project that you would completely disagree on? You're like, okay, this is completely unfulfilling project.
Tons of as a freelancer. That was a lot of them. But
was it industry related or was it people related?
It was always more industry related, I think. Sometimes I would write for example, a defense contractor adjacent Chinese website.
What?
Yeah, I had a weird freelancing career, man. So I was writing for this Chinese website, and they wanted a page about the role of industrial military equipment creations. So
highly specific.
Yeah, I had to write this giant fluff piece about how different types of molding injection technologies and CNC machines were used because I used to write all that tech, before. So they wanted me to basically take that expertise and write a giant fluff piece for the Chinese military.
Oh my god. So it's like
it sounds insane now that I put it out there, but
it does sound insane.
They found me on LinkedIn.
Like, this guy from Pakistan will definitely write about military and guns and shit.
The pay was good.
Fair. So it was the pay transition period. What for? Payments.
That wasn't a well, as a freelancer, you're just freaking. But my main job was writing a whole bunch of nonsense,
Yeah, as long as they pay. No, fair enough.
But another common reason for changing careers is needing to develop new skills.
I agree with that because you get bored, and that's my problem sometimes.
Another one is finding a new network. And I think that's code word for you don't like your fellow employees.
That's a good way to putting it.
Then overcoming mindset blocks. Like, for example, you feel very stuck in one loop, and a lot of people can't put up with that. When I think back to my mom, she never had a career change. She worked one job, but just vertically moving upper and upper throughout that, which was she worked at the she worked as like a I want to say this without disclosing way too much, but she worked as a embassy person. I'm not gonna tell you which embassy.
So my mom had a very similar experience. She worked at the same job. Well, not the same, but she was moving upwards as well, but for 40 years.
She was an educator, right?
Yeah. So she was working first as a teacher, then in the kindergarten, and then she was a teacher. Then she was like some sort of scheduler. Then she got promoted very quickly to a methodologist. I don't know if that's even a profession nowadays, but basically she was moving vertically, the same place, the same spot, the same group of people, so it was like a very strong core. Then no one left for 40 years. Mental.
It's also a generational thing. I think we do career transitions so much more than other generations do.
That's true. But I feel that if you find a place that you like, with the people you like and the job that you like, I would be absolutely happy, like in our situation, absolutely happy to do the same job every day, because it doesn't feel the same. Because every time you get a new project, it's something completely weird. You use the same principles, the same tools, the same network that you have to build that project. However, it's the job position is the same, the people are the same, but the way of working and creatively kind of, I don't know, showing that your work is very different.
Yeah. I also wanted to say, bringing back to the generational point I brought up earlier, it's not. Some people take that as, oh, millennials, they don't want to, they have no loyalty to their company or something. Oh, that's kind of true, but
that's true.
At the same time, it's also just because back then you could afford to have loyalty to your company because one person made enough for an entire household, and we keep changing jobs, and then we keep changing jobs because job opportunities lack, so we move cities a lot. And if we want to move and have another family, we go somewhere else. We're also the most stacked generation in terms of skills and education, so the job market is very competitive.
Yeah, have you seen Meta basically saying, "Hey, we're gonna fire everyone who's a junior and mid developer and get an AI for it." So like some jobs, they're just gonna be absolutely, like now it's also very flexible to have a job abroad or live abroad where it's much more cheap. I wouldn't mind to work for a very low salary if the expenses in the place I'm living are okay.
Yeah, same. I'm just happy that I have a bit of savings left over every month.
That's true. I have exactly the same situation, but but sometimes that is the point where your main priority for a switch is financially driven. And I'll give you an example. When I quit my previous job in the fintech, there are people that I speak to and I really like them and I feel we're very good friends. Why? Because, well, we trauma bonds. That's number one. But two, the pay was great. So that's one. The people sucked. Let's say the manager, the managerial side of things sucked. However, the people on the ground doing the work, amazing. And we're all kind of still friends. So it is about expansion of network. It is about making new friends as well. And especially if you like your job and you all really like working together. So yeah, finance, I see a strong point, but then if you live in a place where it's not so expensive, the people are going to be the second step to hold you in. And then if the salary sucks, the people suck, why would you stay? But if the salary sucks, but the people are nice, you would probably stay longer until you can. But if the salary is nice and the people are nice, I wouldn't mind doing it for longer, right? So that's where you have people, doing the same job for 10 years and they're like, oh, I love this. This is what I like to do.
Yeah, there'll be other times where you have a job interview and you're expecting more pay, but then you look around and you're like, benefits are good. The team seems nice. The HR person knows what they're talking about.
Not too stressful, maybe.
As you say, I'll take a pay cut, honestly.
Yeah, it's the vibe. For the vibes.
With that said, I think that's enough for the main topic. And we are really happy if anybody stuck around to listen to the whole thing. But this is a topic near and dear to our hearts. We've been working for a decade at this point. So, any help people can get in their career transition, and hopefully this information does help you.
Yeah, feel free as well. If you have any questions, maybe you can check the careers page on our website. And that way, maybe you'll see something for a career change in your situation. So it's absolutely fine. And as well, we checked our YouTube channel today. We have a median amount of view time is 5 minutes. So we know you're not going to listen to 1.5 hours. But if you did listen to this whole podcast, please leave a like or a comment.
Thank you, and peace.
See you next time.